And you have the incomparable LaDonna Raeh from Raeh Consulting this morning. And of course, in the background, working on the switches, making sure that we look good, is Mr. Chris Williams, our producer. Good morning, Miss Raeh. What's going on?
Man, we just came off of we're at the end of the month. And I know you guys are seeing all these police cars because they got these quotas to fill because they're giving out tickets. But I was able to get here on time and think about a few things that we're going to talk about today. Today, we are talking about voter participation, Project 2025, and how it affects our businesses. That's you all business owners out there. We are ready to give you the business.
Now, you know what? Let me give you a small recap. Larry Ivory and the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce just came back from the National Black Chamber of Commerce convention down in Atlanta. And then our president, Larry, also immediately after that jetted off to Zimbabwe. He's in Africa. And what he's doing is greasing the wheels, a fact finding mission on how black businesses can do, black entrepreneurs can do business in Zimbabwe. He's going to be bringing that information back to us on next week. I'm so excited, but this is hot. Come on.
And if you want to see the pictures, there are a few pictures posted on the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce Facebook page and the Wake Up Show Chicago Facebook page. So you'll see him out in Zimbabwe. Now, I think he's going to come back with an accent. I really do, because he's out there with our Zimbabwe brothers and sisters, and we had the pleasure of meeting them at the conference that just took place this month in Peoria, Illinois.
So I'm excited about this conversation on this morning. One of the things that we have a special guest online with us today, and is going to be bringing some great insight. And this conversation is important because we have the elections that are coming up. And one of my biggest pet peeves that I've been trying to get across to people is, as entrepreneurs, we need to stop approaching the electoral cycle as a citizen and as a consumer, and that we need to approach it as an entrepreneur. And so, what does that actually mean, and why is that so important? And our special guest, Mr. Greg Willis from not Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix Strategies. But before we get to Mr. Gregory Willis, I want to say, our hearts go out to the family of Buddy Luv. He's out today, and we are so happy to have our special guest, Mr. Gregory Willis. Now, he's with Phoenix Strategies. He's the vice president, mind you, and it's always a pleasure to have anyone from Phoenix Strategies come on and give that information that's needed to our listeners. So welcome. Good morning, Mr. Gregory Willis.
Good morning, Mr. Willis.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, what you talking about, Willis? I couldn't hold it.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah. So, and just give people a little bit of background. And this is before we go into our commercial break at 9:15. But just give people a little bit of background so that they understand where this information is coming from.
My own background, or just
well, give us a little bit about you, so okay, we can set the stage for where this wealth of knowledge is coming from.
So I've been here in Washington, D.C. for probably 24, 25, going on 25 years now. I came from a little place in Arkansas, went to Morehouse College, and came up here after law school and started working in legislative work. So
I got to give you credit for the AUC. I'm sorry, I went to Clark, so I got to give you credit for the AUC.
Well, all right, yes, my brother. Yes, please continue. Absolutely. So I worked for 3 United States senators. I've worked for a member of the House of Representatives in different capacities, which the capacity that probably most fits this issue is I was counsel and general counsel for the Senate Small Business Committee in the United States Senate for Mary Landrieu and for Senator John Kerry. And so I've been in this work for at least 15 years, trying to understand how Black businesses, how minority businesses can get access to federal contracting, get access to just markets, and an auxiliary to that is how do we get access to capital. And so right now, Black businesses are under a tremendous assault. Project 2025 is just the last in a long line of issues that have been coming at the Black business community, starting with a series of court cases, really the seminal court case kind of in this area was Students for Fair Housing against the Harvard University and University of North Carolina. And while that was about students and their admissions programs at these colleges, really they relied on case law from federal contracting programs like the 8A program, and they used that reasoning to basically disallow admissions into universities on the basis of race. And so on the heels of that, we had a series of cases that were working their way through the courts in terms of federal contracting cases, one on the 8A program, one on the kind of assistance that the Minority Business Development Administration at the University at Commerce Department would give to minority businesses. And then there are a number of state and local programs that have also been challenged and overturned. So what we're going through right now is a total regression. The environment that I think minority businesses, Black businesses have had for the last 30 to 40 years are now being turned on their head. And the environment is going to be completely different going forward unless we do something. And we can talk about that more in depth, and we can talk more in depth, quite frankly, about what those challenges have looked like, the response of corporate community to those challenges. There's been a total pullback. Well, not a total pullback, but there has absolutely been a pullback from the DEI initiatives in the wake of these court challenges over the last 2 years. A number of our favorite corporate entities have decided that they're no longer interested in doing DEI at the corporate level. And they make those announcements. And there are new announcements every day about.
Yeah, in 2023 alone, there were nearly 30% of the U.S. corporations have scaled back their DEI efforts following the economic pressures and legal challenges. Now, the name of this show is Defending Our Future, and you brought up a good point about the affirmative action and minority businesses. And just in 2020, it was reported that there were $34 billion set aside for that were awarded to small disadvantaged businesses under the federal program. And now that that's been repealed, what happens to that money?
So that sounds like a lot compared to the numbers that I've seen. Even that number seems like a big number. Right now, the last numbers that we have in terms of minority business, it was I think 1.5% of all federal contracting went to Black businesses, which was I think around $9 billion. So if we're talking, maybe the 34 billion encapsulates all of those numbers, but those numbers are not going up. Now, under the Biden administration, they've been making efforts, but they've been sued. They've been consistently sued because of the efforts that they're making, right? And so what's going to happen if we don't act is that $34 billion number, that $9 billion number that I threw out, those numbers are going to go down. It's going to become increasingly difficult for us to access the federal marketplace and other markets, because the commercial markets are following right behind the federal marketplace with respect to this.
And one of the reasons that this is so important is because, Black businesses, 80% of their employees are Black.
Absolutely.
And so when we start seeing that the federal government, we start seeing that procurement opportunities, contract opportunities are decreasing, then that means that, the ability to have economic empowerment for our people in our communities also decreases. And that's why this conversation is so important.
I say this all the time. Black and brown businesses hire Black and brown people. And that's why we're unemployed. We don't have enough businesses. We don't have enough businesses to scale to hire the numbers of people that we need to hire. And that gets worse when we don't have access to markets.
Correct.
So that number that we got, however many people we hire, you can expect that number to go down if we don't have access to markets. And the federal government market is extremely important because it's the largest market. They are the largest purchaser in the world. The U.S. federal government is the largest purchaser in the world. And so if you don't have access to that market, you're out of the game.
I it's when you talk about when you talk about how the attack is going on right now. I've been having this conversation about the fact that I'm not sure about whether the next generation of Black entrepreneurs are going to even have a seat at the table. One of the things that we've been paying attention to is the fact that now I don't know about other states, but in Illinois around 2005, they stopped putting ethnicity on birth certificates, and it's not on your driver's license. It's not on your passports. And so if they stop doing that, at what point there's going to come a time when you can't certify? How are you going to certify as a minority-owned business so that you can even go after the procurement that has been I don't want to use the word set aside, but that that has been put across for minority-owned businesses.
Take a blood test. Take a blood test. I need my DNA anyway.
So I believe that this attack has been going on quietly in certain areas and then very loud in other areas. So
So
it's
you
very
raise a
concerning.
really important point, right? Because in business, if you don't measure it, doesn't matter,
Come on now,
right?
that's
And
right.
so what's going on with what you just raised in particular is it's a European style or French style approach to race, right? They don't measure race in France. That you're either French or you're not. So if a Black person who's French doesn't get a contract, they can't say that it was racism. Well, we gave it to another French person. We don't count you as Black, we count you as French. So a whole lot of stuff can get swept under the rug if we don't count you, if we don't measure. And so
All right, Greg, I got to slide in because it's time. It's that 9:15 time where we go into our commercial break. Those of you listening at home, please feel free to call in. Dial 773-591-1690. You are listening to the Wake Up Show Chicago, and we are talking about defending our future. And we'll see you when we get back. And we're back. We are talking to Gregory Willis, and we's with Phoenix Strategies. I'm just so excited to have you on the show today, and of course talking to us about this DEIA and what's going to happen in defending our future. Please continue.
So if picking up on the last comment, if we don't measure, it doesn't matter. And what ends up happening is all kinds of discrimination can be done because we can't measure how many contracts are going to Black businesses. You don't know how many contracts are going to Black businesses. It could be 0, it could be 100%, but you don't know. You don't know where to act. You don't know how to act. You don't know where to attack the problem if you can't even measure the problem, right? And so that's kind of where we are. And honestly, this, like I said, this is a long-standing issue. What has occurred is we had, and this is a little bit of history, but what we had was in the 80s, 70s, 60s, we had a group of men and women who came out of the civil rights movement and moved into civil rights, and began the process of really setting up the businesses of the future to be successful. People like Perrin Mitchell, Tony Robbins. There are a number of names that we can go back to. Some of them you would know, some of them you wouldn't, who spent their lives creating a framework where Black businesses could be successful. As soon as they got any level of success in that, there was a group of others who came in to attack those programs that were set up. And so many of you are old enough to remember Mend It, Don't End It under the Clinton administration, where those programs that had been set up during the 80s, they were under attack, and Clinton changed them and made them really less lucrative for Black business owners. The 80 program at its inception made a lot of people a lot of money in the 80s. And that didn't sit well with some folks, right? And so then they came and they attacked it and had to reframe the program. What we see today is just it's basically, we're seeing the impact of all of those kinds of attacks from back then to now.
So they've just progressed since then.
They just kept going. And the problem is we didn't.
We didn't keep up our efforts.
We didn't keep up our efforts. Right. And so this gets to the meat of the issue in terms of why entrepreneurs need to be actively engaged in the political process. Right. And they need to understand their power, and they need to understand how to use that power effectively.
So I think one of the issues is that they don't understand how to use the power. They don't even understand, one of the things I talk to entrepreneurs about is as I said at the top of the hour, is about approaching the electoral cycle as an entrepreneur. How do you look at, you look at these candidates, the incumbents, what did they vote for? Did they vote for you or did they vote against you? Did they vote for policies that add a net positive to your business, or did they vote for things that added a negative to your business, which ultimately adds a negative to your team members, your employees? Wow. And many don't know how to look at those platforms, or where to go and look for how did that person vote, and even the people that's running against them, how does their platform affect their businesses? And that's what you're talking about.
Right. You have to become politically aware and politically engaged. You have to, right? And there are spaces you can go to. We do that. We work with folks like Larry and others to basically bring them that information that they can disseminate through their networks at their different organizations. You have to know who's sitting in that seat. You have to know what they're doing for you or not. You have to basically be able to approach them in a way that they see the value of your approach. So what does that mean? That means that on a basic level, if I'm an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur in your district, I bring a number of employees, I bring influence, and I bring money. And bottom line is, we need to be very aggressive as business owners. You need to be very aggressive. If one candidate can't get me what I need to go looking for a candidate.
Come on.
And you need to be clear with people, because people understand, people in this game, politics is just like any other business. And there are business fundamentals.
And I think one of the issues is also that so many entrepreneurs think that they don't have time to pursue politics, to do that type of research, when they're really not understanding is this. You think you don't have time because you're on the paper chase. You got to get this money. But if you're not paying attention, they're going to take away your ability to get this money. It's an essential part of your business. Just like if you're an entrepreneur and you say, listen, once a month I'm going to record 4 podcasts, and then on this day of the month I'm gonna go over all of my finances, and on this day of the month I'm going to do this. You need to pencil politics into that equation as well. You need to put that on your calendar because it's an essential part of your business.
Absolutely. Look, one of the people that when I first left Capitol Hill the first time, I worked for the U.S. Telecom Association. So we represented AT&T, we represented Verizon, we represented everybody in the country. There were Republicans on our staff. We were evenly split between Republicans and Democrats. And every day of the week, I had to be on Capitol Hill. And I had to basically have conversations about the business interests of our clients every day. I had to report every day. I went and spoke to this person. I went and spoke to that person. And everybody on our staff had to do the same. They called it day book. We had to write out who we talked to. If they saw you at your desk, you weren't doing your job.
Wow.
Right?
Now, I know. Go ahead, Greg. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to slide in on something. You were talking about how you have to be at the table, basically. You have to be present. But what happens with this SBA 7A loan that is at risk as well? Because now with the Project 2025 coming up, they're talking about regulatory changes, potential budget cuts, and political shifts. Is there a way to preserve programs like this, even with the Project 2025 coming up? Because I know that we've talked on this show about the importance of being involved, and if you need to find a candidate, possibly become a candidate, and register to vote. Is there something that we can do to preserve these programs outside of the election or not?
So what we witnessed with Trump in his first term was we witnessed a president who basically used the full force of his power to reshape government in whatever way he saw fit. So yes, there are ways we can sue, we can march, we can do all that kind of stuff, but I'm telling you, it's going to be impossible, nearly impossible to stop him from implementing Project 2025 if he gets back in power.
So one of the things that you said, Greg, and we all know this, going back to the Obama administration, people say, why didn't Obama do more? And we say, well, he was dealing with a Republican House, and even with Biden in place, we see that even where he's trying to do things, all of the different things that he's trying to do, they continue to sue. And so with that in mind, that's essentially saying that there's a group of people who are set up to bring these lawsuits. So where are the group of people on the other side of the fence when, if Trump was to get into office and he was trying to bring his full power again, during his last administration, where were the stopgaps there? Go ahead, sir.
Great question. When you find them, let me know. Look, there are pockets here and pockets there. But this goes back to the political part of this in terms of our entrepreneurs. We have to organize ourselves. Like I said, we have power, but we're not organized correctly to use it, or we don't see the value of using it because we're waiting for the checks to stop. When the checks stop, then we're looking around like, okay, what do we do? You got to act before then. So you need to use organizations like Larry's. You got to link in with him and give him the momentum to go out and fight these battles. Give him the money to go fight these battles, right? And he's not the only person. He's not the only organization. And there needs to be, and we're having conversations here in Washington, D.C. We are. Between congressional members, between some of the other organizations that we represent here with Phoenix and others in town, that there has to be a counterbalance to what's going on. We had a conversation with the CBC chair staff, maybe a month or so ago, and we talked about Project 2025, and we said, where's the counterbalance to that? Where is the plan? Number one, if Democrats win, where's the plan to not only maintain the status quo, but to get an advantage for our businesses? And quite frankly, where is the plan if we lose? And everybody's saying, yeah, we need to have that conversation. We need to talk through it. We need to do what we need to do. But
nobody's saying, so we're going to get started on this day and we're going to meet on this day. That part is not happening.
It's a lot of, hey man, let's talk next week. Hey man, let's get together. Part of that.
Let's do lunch. I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And the crazy part about it is the reason that we need to get started right now is because, and get business owners to completely understand what's going on, is because the entire House is up for election, and 33 or 34 seats in the Senate are up for election.
Yes, and the House is critical. It looks, hopefully, if things keep going the way they're going, we're going to have at least a Democratic House. The Senate is always 50-50 because more Democratic seats are up for re-election than there are Republican seats this cycle. So, if we get a 50-50 Senate, that's a win. But by and large, here's what happens. Members of Congress have 1,000 things coming at them every moment of the day. And we feel like our issues are the most important issues in the universe. He's got 50 people outside his door who think the same thing. How do you break through that? Right? So I talked about us getting engaged as business owners and using our networks. But if we don't educate our members, we assume that our members know what we need. They do not. And it's not their fault. It's our fault for not telling them. Right? It's our fault for not engaging them, because they're going to respond to pressure just like anything else.
All right. Well, they're going to, Greg, they're going to respond to pressure, and our callers are going to respond to calling this number. It's 773-591-1690. We're going to go into break, and we'll be back. And to all you listeners, we know who you are, so tune in. We'll see you in a minute. And we're back. Thank you so much for waiting. We have our special guest, Gregory Willis. I'm LaDonna Raeh, and I got MC Pearson to the right or left, my bad, of me. And Larry Ivory is in Zimbabwe making it happen. Make sure you follow us on social media so that you can see what's going on, what's really going on with the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. And as you know, we are getting ready for our 20-year anniversary next year. The conference that we have annually, you can pre-register at ilbcc.org. And now I want to kind of get into Project 25. Now, most of us know what Project 25 is on a grand scheme of things, but how do you kind of narrow that down, Greg Willis, so that those out there that are affected by Project 25 as business owners, as consumers, as the community, can you break that down in your shortest version possible?
Okay, so it's a 900 plus page document, right? So it's really large, but each of the different agencies has a section written for it about how they want to reshape government. And so the SBA has their own section where they want to reshape government, and how it would impact all of our businesses. So they want to eliminate the Community Navigator pilot program, right? So this gives access to underserved communities. It provides $100 million to 51 organizations, over 400 community groups across the nation, to connect small businesses to federal, state, and local resources, right? So they want to get rid of that. So there's going to be no access to the federal government for that new entrepreneur who's trying to figure out, how do I do business with the federal government? How do I get my business up off of the ground? They want to get rid of that, right? They want to end direct lending, so the disaster loans. So when something happens to your small business because of a disaster, you can go directly to the federal government. A lot of that happened during COVID, right? A lot of direct lending happened because of the COVID disaster. Well, that goes away. We've got to figure out another way to get you funded during these catastrophes, right? They want to increase the visibility and role of the Office of Advocacy. Why is that important? The Office of Advocacy reviews all of the federal regulations that are proposed in the federal government to make sure that they don't negatively impact the federal small businesses. Well, that's a powerful tool in the wrong hands.
Yes.
That's a powerful tool in the wrong hands. Luckily, I mean, people don't understand the power of that office, but they want to expand it and use that to basically pull back on any regulations. So let's say you got a DEI regulation you want to implement. It's got to go to the Office of Advocacy. If you've got the wrong chief advocate over there, that rule will never go into effect, right? But the general issue is with respect to these things, and that's just a few of the things in the small business section. Project 2025 wants to end all affirmative action and DEI initiatives across the federal government.
And and let's crystallize this a little bit, because what I do not like is every single time I hear people talking about DEIA initiatives, they speak about it in a negative tone, as if anybody who receives a job, a procurement contract, any type of thing associated, right, with accessing it because of DEIA, it means that your product is inferior, your service is inferior, that they had to lower the standards in order to let you get in on that contract. And it's one of the furthest things from the truth. DEIA gets you a seat at the table. DEIA makes them have to consider your business, your well-qualified business, because without it, they won't even look at your name. They won't even look at your contract.
I'm glad you said that. But our businesses, when I was working on the committee, and I was new to small business. I came from a whole different area of the law and policy. I was, quite frankly, I shouldn't have been shocked, but the Black business owners that came in that office to talk to us, highly sophisticated, highly qualified, highly. They had to be. And in order to even get that, let's say the doors open, but even to get a seat at the table and get a real look, they had to be
Come on.
better.
Come
They
on.
had to be better. The only thing they lacked was access to that market. And really the bigger issue was access to capital so that they could grow their firms. And
Now,
so,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
When you were talking about the like the black colleges and the HBCUs, I'm just looking at my notes, and there's a conflict here, and this is why it's so important to be a part of this next election, because when Trump was in office, he made sure that he often referred to and highlighted the administration efforts of supporting HBCUs in when it comes to advocacy and support. But now Project 2025 almost contrasts that by reducing that effort, almost being an I can't say it because it would be politically incorrect to say that, but almost giving you something and then taking it back. It's so clear. It's right there in black and white.
So look, this is important in all facets of life. I'll hear what you say, but I'm gonna watch what you do.
Come on now. Inspect what you inspect. Come on.
Right? And so he says a lot of things. And look, I'm not gonna limit that to him.
Right.
You need to pay attention to everybody. This is something that I learned working for my dear home state senator. You need to be careful of anyone who wants you to feel while they think. They want you to feel good about the policy. They want you to feel good about, them and what they're saying. And you get into your feelings, and the whole time they're thinking, how do I move this person? How do I move this policy? How do I move this issue? And how do I make this person feel good about how I'm about to take them off the chessboard? And we have to be really, really careful about that. And that's part of the business of politics, is to get you to feel. That is a business fundamental of politics. I want you to feel a certain way. And then once I get you either angry or sad or happy, once I get you into your feelings, then I can move you in a way that benefits me.
Exactly. I often tell people, I tell salespeople all the time when I'm training them, I tell them, listen, one of the first things you got to do is control perception. If you can control perception, that becomes people's reality. If you can make people think that this 5-cent widget is worth $95,
NFTs.
yeah, right. It's worth $95. And then you get somebody to buy it for $95. Guess what? Now the new reality is this thing is worth $95. And that is exactly what they're doing, controlling the perception in order to create your reality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that we can't afford to do anymore, because we're in that space where we don't have any more leeway, is we can't afford to be manipulated by our emotions. I need this policy. I need this result. I need you to do X for me, right? And you telling me why you can't do it, and how you tried your best, and and it was because of those folks over there that I couldn't get it done. Well, look, I need to find somebody who's more effective. If you can't get it done, point me to the person that can. That's the person I need to be talking to. And that's kind of where we are as not just only as a business community, but as a people. We have to be a little more demanding about what we want, and demanding about what we're not going to accept.
So how effective has the Justice 40 initiative been from your perspective? And for those that don't know, the Justice 40 initiative was an executive order signed by President Biden that went in conjunction with the $1.7 trillion infrastructure bill that went through. And so Justice 40 initiative said, hey, 40% of all of this money needs to be spent with communities that look like the taxpayers, that look like the people who funded this thing, that look like you and me and minorities. So from your perspective, how effective has that Justice 40 initiative been?
It's been effective in terms of what happens is you get these high level mandates. It's got to make its way down to the ground level where people are actually implementing these programs and cutting checks. And so, in terms of setting kind of the mandate for what we're going to do down here, it's been effective. And so, there have been a lot of discussions, a lot of conversations around that. And there's been some money that's been going out of the door. Where it
Now,
needs to be better, quite frankly, is, and I'm having these conversations around a lot of things right now in terms of the IRA and other bills. We have to be, again, at the table when they're cutting these checks. They're not necessarily going to come looking for you, right? And that's just human nature.
right.
Not a good or bad thing. I'm not saying that it's nefarious or anything. That's not the case. It's, if I'm in solar, I need to be over at the Department of Energy where they're cutting the checks for solar. If I'm a city that wants to do a solar project and they are putting money out onto the street, they're putting out notices of funding opportunities every day, but my city is not actually applying for that money, then I can't really blame the administration. They're telling me the money's here. They're putting the money on the street. I need to be there to get that money. And so it's a yin and a yang. Yes, they're trying to do their best over here, but we have to meet them halfway in terms of being available to receive the money that they're putting on the street.
Well, this is so heavy that our callers are just mesmerized. They definitely don't have too much information today and just not enough because we only have an hour on every Saturday. Make sure you guys tune in with us each and every Saturday. Make sure you follow us on social media because we can put information into the show notes. But we're about to head to that commercial break. It's 9:45 and we'll be right back on the Wake Up Show Chicago after this. And we're back after that commercial break. You're listening to the Wake Up Show Chicago. Let me just, we got a caller or comment that came in. Bob Frazier says, we can't sit back and watch them systematically destroy us. DEI is dead. We are certified 8A, WOSB, DBA, etc., struggling to access opportunities. Yeah. We have to definitely make sure that we have a seat at the table, Greg. You mentioned that, make sure that we are registered to vote. Make sure that we are looking for candidates if the candidates that are running are not the ones that we want to vote for. I mean, it's kind of late in the game now, but we have to definitely be a part of all of the elections that are coming up. And those of you that are making sure that you're registered to vote, make sure that your employees are registered to vote. Your children that are over the age of 18 are registered to vote. If your children are getting their driver permits or state IDs, make sure they are pre-registered to vote because they can vote in the upcoming elections when they turn 18 now by registering early. So those are our responsibilities to make sure the village is registered to vote. If you're an employer, put the QR code up that goes to the registration board link so that people can come in and scan that QR code. If you're a store, a retail store, if you're somewhere that has foot traffic, put that QR code so that people can scan it and register to vote. That's just a tip so that we can get these numbers up, because if nobody's registered, then those votes won't even count for real.
You know what? We actually have a sign that businesses can purchase from 25M Printing. You can reach out to us at 708-398-3232. We already have the sign with the QR code that says, "Are you registered to vote?" So if you ain't got time to make one on your own, give us a call. We got that for you. So Greg, what else do you think that as entrepreneurs that we need to do? You know, this is the solution phase of the show. You know, what are the actionable things that we need to start doing, paying attention to, that once we get off this show as an entrepreneur, we can start making plans that we can introduce to our team on Monday?
All right. So the first thing is you need to get close to Larry Ivory and the Black Chamber of Commerce.
That's right. That's right. That is absolutely right. And you can do that at ilbcc.org is our website, ilbcc.org. Please continue.
Absolutely. And so what Larry is really effective at doing is, so as an entrepreneur, you need to delegate. Part of that delegation is making sure that you're connected to the Illinois Black Chamber, because they're going to basically feed you that information and they'll gather you together basically in order to make you an effective tool to get what you need done. So you need to be a part of that, right? So that you're not having to become a political scientist overnight and while you're running your business. But you need to be locked in with those kinds of folks, number one. Number two, you need to talk to your employees, like you said. You need to make sure that your employees are registered, that they're ready to go. And they need to understand the value proposition for them of voting. Like, my business prospects are directly tied to who's in the White House or who's in the state legislature, or who's on the city council. I'm getting contracts, I'm getting opportunities based upon the people there that I know. And so it's in your interest to vote, because if I have a contract, you have a job.
Come on.
You've got to make that value proposition to people, because they don't understand it necessarily. And they don't necessarily, maybe they shouldn't, because they're working every day. But they need to know how the sausage is made a little bit. This is how we get paid. This is how I'm able to pay you.
And I'm not going to give you your paycheck until you register to vote. Oh, no, we can't do that. I'm sorry.
and that kind of political education has to happen up and down the line, right? Post-election, one of the things that I really don't like is that we set up voting as a one-day event, and that once we vote, we've done our civic duty and we don't have to do nothing else for another 2 to 4 years. And politicians like that because you don't make any demands on them. They get you revved up to vote for them, and voting is the victory. No. Voting is your power. Once you exercise that power, don't just give it away. Politics is a bargain for exchange. So as a business owner, post-election, hey, I supported you. This is how we need to continue to engage with you to make sure that the legislative priorities that I have are being executed by you. And if you need our help in terms of helping you get support for a bill that we want, then we'll engage with you to do that. If you need help in terms of how your own reelection prospects, we're here to help you. But we're here to help anybody, whether it's you or someone else, who's going to advance our interests. That's it. Right? This is not personal. This is business. And I'm going to support people who support me and my business.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? That's a topic of an upcoming Black Business Roundtable. If you voted for me, I'll vote for you. So I can look at that's right, straight no chaser. If you vote for me, I'll vote for you. If you're an incumbent, I'm gonna look at your record. You asking for my vote. I need to see, did you vote for me? Did you vote for my business? Did you vote for my team members? Did you vote for my community?
Look,
let's have that conversation. Come on.
If you are wondering whether or not the person in office is supporting you, you're on the wrong side of that equation.
Cool.
I guarantee you there are people who voted for that person and support that person who never have to wonder whether or not they're going to get what they need out of them. You need to be that person. You don't ever need to wonder. If you're wondering, you're on the wrong side.
Yeah.
Man.
And speaking of voting for me and I'll vote for you, that has so many different meanings that I can go in different directions about. Make sure that if you guys are listening and you're contemplating being part of and thinking, I can't do this by myself. I need a village. I need to be part of an organization that has resources. Be sure to go to ilbcc.org, and that is the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, who's been around since the 90s. And make sure you click on the membership link where you can then read about becoming a member. And by becoming a member, you actually are a part of having access to industry leaders, dignitaries, and the events that the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce puts out there. Also, you have access to Mr. Larry Ivory himself, because he has been obviously the leader of this organization, the Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce. And you are not in this business alone, no matter what your business is, no matter if it's the cannabis business, the daycare business, the industry that talks about resources as far as water and reclamation and things of that nature. You are not alone, no matter what type of business you're in when you join the chamber. And with the chamber comes resources, events, knowledge is power. I can't even tell you in the matter of an hour how much benefit it has been being part of the chamber. MC Printing is part of the chamber as well, and so many others that have come on to the show have not, even if they weren't a member at the time, they became members, and we love what we've heard from each one of those.
MC Printing or 25M Printing?
You know what? You're MC and it's your printing company, so they do what I meant. You're not on my sponsor list, so I said it wrong. But yeah, 25M Printing, absolutely.
So, wow. This conversation has been so intriguing. And, one of the things that I often say, and I did not even know that I often said it until people started quoting it back to me when they meet me in person. Don't be stingy about this show. A business owner, an entrepreneur who needs this information, who needs to be awoken to the fact that their Black business is being attacked. You need to share this show on Facebook. You need to share it on YouTube. You need to share it on any social media platform that you are on, because listen, we share garbage. We share dogs jumping over cats. We share world star videos, but are we sharing content like that's being given out on today that actually affects our communities? Please, listeners, do not be stingy. Share this show. We need to be awoken as Black businesses.
Yeah, because our I look at our subscriptions, our number of subscriptions, and if you look on YouTube, make sure that when you go on YouTube, you look for the Wake Up Show Chicago. Make sure you put Chicago in there because we're very specific. Look for the Wake Up Show Chicago. You're able to get access to the archive shows that have been premiered or that have been published in the past, and we've been up for about 5 years now. So we have about 2 years worth of podcasts that are out there because, this part of it is kind of new. But make sure that you get onto our YouTube and share it and subscribe to it. That's the key. That's how we know, because numbers bring numbers, people. Let's not pretend like it doesn't. But make sure that you do that, and we're able to let people know that you are subscribed. And you never know, we may have some giveaways in the future. There you have it. You're listening to the Wake Up Show Chicago. I really want to thank you, and we want to thank you, Gregory Willis, with our crew this morning. We have MC Pearson on, and of course, Larry is out in Zimbabwe. He's in Zimbabwe. I'm telling you, he's sending these pictures, and I'm changing my whole style of dressing. But we met the brothers and sisters from Zimbabwe when they came to the conference, as I said earlier. And now he's out there seeing how we can bring Zimbabwe together. It's a fusion. Bring Zimbabwe together with the state of Illinois. But it's more than that. I want everyone listening to know that we are doing some work for you so that you can get in on it and make it happen, whatever it is. Also, Buddy Luv, he's out today. We send our prayers out to him. But we will be back next Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time or Central Daylight Time. It's getting darker earlier now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
7:30 is not good.
And you know what? And we're gonna have the return of the the return of Larry Ivory.
I'm done.
The return of Larry Ivory from Zimbabwe.
Yes. When is your next fireside chat?
The next fireside chat is going out next Wednesday. We just had a really good fireside chat with Larry Ivory. If you guys don't know, there's a brand new podcast called Fireside Chat with Larry Ivory. It's on YouTube. You can look it up, and it's a short format podcast. So this particular podcast, we're getting all of this knowledge out of Larry Ivory's mind, out of his head. He's been in this battle for 30, 40 years, and you know what? He has so much knowledge. So what we're doing is, in the short format, we're talking about all the different types of things, and we're breaking it all down. I think the first episode was only about certifications, the acronyms, what was the purpose of these certifications. And so the second episode, which just went live this past Wednesday, was about all the state agencies and their responsibilities and what they're supposed to be doing, like the BEP Council for small Black businesses and other Black businesses. So tune into the Fireside Chat. We thank you for listening to the Wake Up Show Chicago, powered by Illinois State Black Chamber of Commerce, and check in with us on Saturday when Mr. Larry Ivory returns from Zimbabwe. We love you. We out on behalf of the entire team here.